Even though we are a technology company, we're an information technology business, we're an IT services company, we're really in the people business.
While we're in we're in the IT services industry, we're really a people company by choice.
Atrion culture is people. It is the family. It is this group that are coming together to do great things.
The following special program is brought to you by Atrion IT Technology, Rhode Island College, Cardi's Furniture, and the Arpin Group. I am Peter Arpin with ReNewable Now, and the question today is, what is sustainable economics? We are here today at the world-renowned International Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport to look at two great examples of sustainable economics in action. Sustainability, in a general sense, is the capacity to support, maintain, or endure. Human sustainability interfaces with economics through the voluntary trade consequences of economic activity. What does that mean to us? Well, part of what it means is growth through preservation, keeping historic assets alive and well and in use in our current culture and economy. Today, you will hear from Mark Stenning and Doug Stark from the Hall of Fame and Museum, and Michael Semenza of Salve Regina University, as they talk about the vital role these two great organizations play in the city of Newport, but how they also came together just a few years ago to save a wonderful building and transform it into a thriving arts center that they both share. We also ask you to think about this. Would Newport be the same today if the Hall of Fame and museum grounds had been torn down to make room for a shopping plaza? We'll be right back. Welcome back to ReNewable Now. We're here at the International Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport, and I am here with Mark Stenning, the CEO. Mark, how you doing?
Peter, doing great. Great to have you here.
Terrific. Thank you for having us. Great facility. We really enjoy doing the shows here. Thank you. Doug Stark, Museum Director. Doug, we're going to get into a little bit of your history, which I know is very sports-orientated. Yep. We walked in the first day with Kevin Stakem, and you knew him right away. Michael Semenza. And Michael is with Salve, Vice President, University Relations. So good of you to be with us.
Very nice to be here.
Real quick, we want to hear a little bit about your background. I know you've been here a long time.
Certainly have, Peter. Born and raised Rhode Islander. Went to Rhode Island College, and shortly after leaving Rhode Island College, started with the Hall of Fame and have been here for all of my 33-year career.
You've done a terrific job. You've built a great facility here.
Thank you.
And it's a terrific place. Doug?
Well, my background's been sports museums, so I've worked at the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts, and the United States Golf Association in New Jersey.
Terrific. And how did you get to Salve?
I got here, was supposed to be here for about a year and a half back in 1990 as a consultant and worked with several of the institutions in town, and one of those was Salve, and I have been there ever since.
Terrific. Well, we're glad to have you. What about some of the history here? This facility, which is pretty amazing, and in a couple minutes we're going to talk about how you almost lost it, but tell us about this facility and the museum.
Pretty amazing, Peter. It was built in 132 years ago in 1880 by James Gordon Bennett, who was the publisher of the New York Herald Tribune, coincidental with the invention of the sport of lawn tennis, which was actually patented in 1873. So the combination of this facility, which was one of America's first country clubs, and this brand new sport of lawn tennis, and here we are today.
Now, is it true this facility predates some of those mansions up the street?
Certainly, and actually predates Wimbledon, which is important to us.
Really?
To say that we're older than Wimbledon means a lot.
Yeah, you really? Wow,
Certainly.
That's terrific. And was this, did you tell me, Doug, was this one of the first grass courts, and was the U.S. Open started or born here? Or?
Yeah, in 1881, the first U.S. National Championships took place on one of our courts in the back, and it's the tournament that has grown today to the U.S. Open. So we're very proud of that.
That's a terrific legacy. What about, how did the tennis kind of decide or migrate here to be the Hall of Fame, and how did it evolve? How did it develop in Newport?
You know, sort of an interesting story with the first U.S. National Championships that took place here until 1915, when the tournament outgrew Newport. If you ramp ahead many years, Jimmy and Candy Van Allen, who were the founders of the Hall of Fame, Jimmy was an heir to the Vanderbilt and Astor fortune, so he had an ability to do what he wanted. They went to Cooperstown, to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and Candy said to her husband, Jimmy, if they can do it in Cooperstown, why can't we do it in Newport? So 1954 became the International Tennis Hall of Fame.
Wow, and boy, have you grown since then, right? How many visitors come through here?
We get about 25,000 visitors see our museum each year.
Wow. Let's talk about this building. Almost got torn down at one time. Is that true?
Yeah, back in the mid '50s, it was on the market. It was coincidental with the strip mall that appeared across the street, where the parking lot across the street from the Hall of Fame. Most of the infrastructure of the building had deteriorated. It had been through the Depression. It had been closed, and in 1954, with Jimmy founding it, they said, "No, we'll stick it out a little while longer." And we're certainly glad they did.
Can you imagine this beautiful facility being replaced? And there's, in Newport, we're talking about tourism, we're talking about the oceans, we're talking about all of those kind of preservation too, a lot of preservation. And can you imagine the hole, the void, if this building, this facility had gotten torn down? Great history. Where are you at today? And in particular, we're really interested in what's the transformation here? What are some of the things that you're doing to invest in sustainability and to kind of change the operations and some of the efficiencies here at the Hall of Fame?
I mean, one of the things that Doug and I recently cooperated on, because the museum is so energy dependent, is we've worked with RISE and replaced over 300 bulbs in the museum to state-of-the-art LED technology. So we're hoping over the course of a year to save probably $10,000, which is a lot for a not-for-profit organization like us.
Absolutely.
Another major energy consumer on site are our indoor courts, which have lights blaring 12 hours a day, 350 days a year, and we've made the same change. So,
and you've even looked a little bit at solar, I know, because I look here and I look at your orientation and your rooftops, and you've got a building. I know a lot of this is protected. We talked about that, right, by the Historical Commission and so forth, but you've got one building for operations that would make a pretty stunning place for solar. We'll be right back.
At the International Tennis Hall of Fame, it's all about the game, the history, and the legends. You can be part of it all. Tour the museum to learn the history of tennis and the fascinating stories of its legendary stars. Play tennis on the historic grass courts. Witness tennis history at the annual induction ceremony.
Thank you so much.
Become a member or plan a visit to the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Learn more on tennisfame.com.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a 600-pound gorilla, able to pack any home in a single move. Look, pulling up to our house. It's a delivery. It's a truck. No, son, that's the Arpin Moving Guy. An advanced mover from the Arpin Group, sent to defeat rogue movers and moving giants that provide bad home moves. He delivers customer satisfaction, quality work, and award-winning service. For a super move, call Arpin at 800-343-3500 or visit arpin.com. The Moving Guy, saving the world from bad moves, one customer at a time.
Cardi's is focused to give you a better night's sleep
By working with those who have the same goal.
Like our nation's most recognized sleep specialist, Dr. Bruce.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce. I'm here at Cardi's personally training Nairobi's team to assess your sleep habits and needs, focusing on my 4 tenets of better sleep: thermoneutrality, balance of pressure, complete relaxation, and tranquil sleep. all of which will help you get a better night's rest.
Enjoy an introductory free Dr. Bruce box spring. Carty's Furniture.
Even though we are a technology company, we're an information technology business, we're an IT services company, we're really in the people business.
While we're in the IT services industry, we're really a people company by choice.
Atreon culture is people. It is the family. It is this group that are coming together to do great things.
Thanks so much for staying with us. So let's talk about today. Let's talk about some of the things you do here at this facility and some of the things that you do that bring people to Newport.
Well, we have a very active site. We're 6 acres. We have the museum, which is housed in this building, the Newport Casino.
Tell us about that.
Well, the museum is on the 2nd floor in the original rooms designed by McKim, Mead White. So those rooms were used for billiards and conversation and reading rooms and bachelor quarters. But today they're the museum. And we tell the story of the Newport Casino and the history of tennis in this architectural building, and we tell the stories through our Hall of Famers. And so each year we get a lot of visitors, mainly local people. We also have tourists, international travelers, and a quarter of our visitors are children. And so we have a very active program to engage young kids to teach them about the history of tennis, but also how to play tennis. And part of our mission is to teach junior tennis. And that speaks to a lot of the other activities that we have on site, which is both an indoor and an outdoor tennis club.
Now tell us a little bit about are there tournaments that take place here?
Absolutely. In fact, we're very intensive, as Doug mentioned, as a special event site. We get about 100,000 people a year who visit the site for events such as opening night of the Newport Jazz Festival. We were the site of the first Newport Jazz Festival in 1954.
Really?
We continue that tradition with the opening night on Center Court. But our forte is really 7 to 9 days in the middle of July, the weeks right after Wimbledon, when we host the Hall of Fame Tennis Championships. It's the last remaining men's professional grass court event in this hemisphere. And it's also a platform for our Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony. So we go from being a very small operation here, and all of a sudden, for 9 days, we're available to 70 million households worldwide who get to see people like Andre Agassi and Steffi Graf, and we've been lucky to have the top player in the United States win our grass court tournament the last couple of years. So we're very excited to still have that franchise.
One of the things we're interested in is Newport, how it handles the crowds and what are the changes. Do you coordinate with the city, as far as trying to mitigate traffic and transportation and how people get, because obviously for tourists, they want a good experience, right?
Certainly.
They want to stay in a great place, they want to get in and out, they don't want to be stuck in traffic. What's your relationship and how do you approach these kind of major events?
In the case of the Hall of Fame Championships, we're lucky that this will be the 37th consecutive year. So we're doing a couple things right, but we're still learning. We work very closely with the city to have minimal impact on the neighborhood from a parking standpoint, from a noise standpoint. We work closely with the Convention and Visitors Bureau to make sure that the creature comforts of our patrons are taken care of. When you get into, I know we're talking about sustainability here, but our tournament, we go through hundreds of cases of tennis balls. We recycle each and every one of them.
Okay.
Over the course of a season, because we're a grass court site, we also generate tons of grass clippings. So they're not taken to the landfill. We take them off-site where they're taken to a compost.
And we even talked a little bit about water conservation and how you can capture rainwater and use that because you have beautiful courts and facilities. Salve, very close by. How old?
Salve was started in 1947.
And it was started by?
The Sisters of Mercy.
Right, and we talked about like the ruler and whether we're going to get struck a little bit today.
They're a pretty smart bunch of women. But, when we were talking before about the partnerships that you didn't even realize from whether even before it was Salve, but when this was the gateway to Bellevue Avenue. Many of those homes and buildings are now part of Salve and its academic community and part of the Preservation Society. So we have those ties, and this is still the gateway to where we are.
Right? You have 80 acres. In fact, they talk about even your architecture there with those buildings, kind of the Gilded Age. So they talk about preservation, talk about history, but modern day. But you talk about how you interact a little bit as far as education, because that's very important.
As
and I know
far as education goes, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about the theater in a few moments, but back and forth. I mean, an example is just tonight here on these grounds in the Casino Theater at the Tennis Hall of Fame is the Newport County Orchestra with Salve singers from our music program and with singers from the local high school. So as we sit right here, right behind us, are some of the things that are done together. There's also wonderful programs done specifically through the theater for students in the community from the schools and on an ongoing basis.
So again, reaching out into the community together, you know, touching the youth, touching arts and culture, because again, you have a fabulous facility for doing so, and you certainly have a fabulous facility. It's amazing when you go through and go by the cliff walk, right? And most of your campus is along.
Most of the campus is historic, and it has been over the years saved for adaptive reuse, for educational use, and that's everything from carriage houses to stables where artists are now studying or nursing students are studying.
Let's go to a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about that. We'll be right back.
I'm Maureen Carey, publisher of Rhode Island Natural Awakenings magazine. I'm excited about our new partnership with ReNewable Now. Natural Awakenings is a free monthly publication committed to providing services and information to our community to improve your quality of life physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You'll find cutting-edge information on natural health, nutrition, fitness, personal growth, green living, and the products and services that support a healthy lifestyle. You can find our magazine at health food stores, coffee shops, yoga studios, libraries, and wherever free publications are generally seen. We are locally owned, locally produced, and supporting the Rhode Island economy naturally. You can find us online at rinaturalawakenings.com.
Welcome back. Let's pick up, Michael, where you left off. So let's keep talking about the collaborative, the partnership, and some of the education and the community outreach.
Sure. Well, it was about a year and a half ago, a little less than a year and a half ago, that together the Tennis Hall of Fame and Salve Regina was able to bring the Casino Theater back to life. And when you really talk about making things work for good reuse, here Salve has a thriving program in the arts, in theater, in music, in design, and we needed facilities.
So talk about that building, because I'm assuming it was empty or not used? Or?
Mark really knows the...
For a variety of reasons, mostly code issues, Peter, and some structural issues, the Hall of Fame ceased to use it as an active theater in the early 1980s. And we struggled. It became largely a storage area. And
that beautiful?
Yeah,
wow.
Pretty amazing. I mean, the last remaining Stanford White Casino Theater with over $1 million of gild on the wall. I mean, you had a chance to see it.
It is beautiful.
So we sat down with Mike and Sister Therese and our friends at Salve maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and we started putting together a plan, and then aggressively together in a true partnership went to local foundations, individuals, and some corporations. And I'm pleased to say again, thanks to our friends at Salve, we have an operational theater that's operating 200 yards behind us right now.
And it's used a lot, I'm assuming. Is it used
by the Hall of Fame?
It's kind of,
Salve?
again, it couldn't be a more perfect partnership in that Salve is, our academic year goes from the end of August to the beginning of September until the middle or end of May. And those are the shoulder seasons and the off seasons of tourism here. And what works perfectly in the summertime, the theater is a wonderful asset then to the Tennis Hall of Fame.
So it very much complements time of year, and so you can easily share the facility and do. Now you focus mostly on speakers coming through.
Ours is in the theater. It's an academic theater program, so it's a really wonderful theater program. So our theater department is here, and their performances are here. And what it has done is it has put us here, just as close as it is for a walk. It's put us right here in the center of Newport too. And you've seen
what's the capacity
audiences of it. It's approximately
295.
Approximately 300. Approximately 300 people. But now you see a real wonderful mix of community in the programs. In fact, we were talking before about what it's done for children, and the casino theater and Tennis Hall of Fame doing so much for children. But 2 days after we got our occupancy permit for it, we were able to open up our first production with Salve Regina University Theater players for Peter and the Wolf, and that was for 4th graders throughout all the schools in Newport County, and it was wonderful. And we continue to do that by dedicating matinees, which makes it easier for school children to come, and then just also the learning process by students being in the building and seeing that you actually can do something like this, and that new isn't always better.
Yeah, and it happened fast. Let's talk about the future. What are some of the partnerships you have? What are some of the things with those partners that you'd like to see changed in your effort to be more sustainable? And kind of tell us a little bit about the future here of the Tennis Hall of Fame.
It may be a little bit of a scoop, but thank you. We're in the midst of a not-so-silent capital campaign to increase the footprint of the Hall of Fame. We've recently purchased some adjacent properties, and it's interesting that we're having this conversation because a significant part of it has to do with large south-facing roofs, which we have many of on our indoor court buildings. Things that I'm not can't speak well on, but things like geothermal heating and for water and for the building. So very exciting time at the Hall of Fame to be able to acquire some property directly adjacent to the Hall of Fame.
Expand your economic impact, because tell me a little bit about your economic impact. Employees, you said 25,000 people?
25,000 visitors, yeah.
Okay, tell us a little bit, because you have a significant footprint over here. You're a big part, obviously, of what happens with tourists, with the mansions and some of the other places. Tell us about the size, the scope, and it's about to get larger too.
Yeah, I mean, just in round numbers, Peter, we have about 100,000 visitors when you factor in all of the special events in Doug's Museum. We have about a $7 million operating budget now. We have 30 full-time employees here on site. Our tournament alone, which I referenced earlier, has a $10 million economic impact in Rhode Island. So we're very proud about that. And early in 2013, we're announcing a whole new tier of corporate sponsors who are coming on board. So a lot of good things coming down there.
And of course, the visibility internationally, and obviously being part of what makes Newport that gem of kind of the New England coastline. Are there things you'd like to see at all differently in Newport, in how the infrastructure, in how the city grows? What are the things that you think could happen that would make the city more successful and the International Tennis Hall of Fame more successful?
I prefer to hear from these guys, but I'll just throw out an easier way to get passengers here from the cruise ships, which currently sit out in the middle of the harbor. And
that would be one of the logistics, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What about you, Doug?
I'd like to see some easier parking for a lot of our visitors. That's one of the #1 questions we get. Where can we park? How close is it? I know that a lot of our...
part of that discussions? Do you have those discussions? Do you work with
Well, certainly during our tournament, we encourage everyone to park at the visitor center and take the trolleys, but certainly during the rest of the year, I think we'd like to find easier parking for a lot of our visitors.
Michael, what about Salve?
I think that's easy sitting here talking about this project because it would be the continuation of more partnerships, continuing to work together. People laugh about the island mentality, thinking is a negative. I think this is the island mentality, the way it really comes out here, and it's for the best. It really is. It's working together. So, given that we have a good university here to continue to be able to work.
How many students?
We have about 2,000 undergraduate students and 500 graduate students.
And did you, and we're going to have to finish up, but did you open a facility in Warwick, Rhode Island?
We did. We opened it very recently in Warwick, Rhode Island, and that's to answer a need for a continuing education and for degree completion.
So you two are expanding.
So we too are reaching out, and as I said, the best part of that is these partnerships, whether it's for the arts or partnerships we have for athletics and the whole range.
Terrific. We'll follow up on the radio side again. Thank you so much for having us, and I will be right back. Let's see the closing statement.
At the International Tennis Hall of Fame, it's all about the game, the history, and the legends. You can be part of it all. Tour the museum to learn the history of tennis and the fascinating stories of its legendary stars. Play tennis on the historic grass courts. Witness tennis history at the annual induction ceremony.
Thank you so much.
Become a member or plan a visit to the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Learn more on TeenisHallofFame.com.
At the beginning of the show, we asked you if Newport would hold the same charm and the same vibrancy if a shopping plaza had replaced the Hall of Fame grounds. Well, I think we know the answer to that. Of course not. How could you so easily replace their site as the first grass courts to grace our country? Its rightful place in tennis history as original host to the U.S. Open, one of today's great tournaments. And what void would exist today had we stupidly torn down their facilities and dropped a lackluster shopping plaza in their place? A void, by the way, which would have killed a partnership with a university, Salve Regina, who started over 60 years ago with the heart and hard work of the Sisters of Mercy, who garden and tend to 80 pristine acres that sit along and complement one of the world's great nature trails, the Cliff Walks, and would have preempted the restoration of a teaching theater and art center. We need to think and remember how close to disaster we came when daring to potentially destroy history and culture here in Newport and here in this state, a place very much dependent on both. See you next week for Show 4 on ReNewable Now, bringing you the business side of it.
At the International Tennis Hall of Fame, it's all about the game, the history, and the legends. You can be part of it all. Tour the museum to learn the history of tennis and the fascinating stories of its legendary stars. Play tennis on the historic grass courts. Witness tennis history at the annual induction ceremony.
Thank you so much.
Become a member or plan a visit to the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Learn more on TeenisHallofFame.com.